And I think because we're going to be talking about the gut microbiota, it's good to just take a step back and do a bit of an overview of the importance of the gut microbiota to human health. And when I started off in this area 22 years ago, my research career, we call it the microflora at that time point. And there's probably someone in this room who are probably old enough to remember when we call it the microflora as well, the gut ecosystem. And we know that the microbiota contains about 100 trillion living microbes. Start off looking at just gut-based ones, and some of these ones that we know for a long time. Like, the first studies showing dysbiosis and irritable bowel syndrome go back to the 1980s. First trial of probiotics in IBS was like 1956, I think, from memory, a long time ago. And some of the other ones on this list too are kind of like, yeah, it makes sense. Antibiotics cause antibiotic-associated diarrhea or chemotherapy-associated diarrhea probably have a microbiota component. So herb medicines in the microbiota, we've got herbs that nurture and we have herbs that kill. And we'll start off looking at herbs that nurture. But first off, we'll look at kind of the general way that herbs, in fact, most herbs we're actually utilizing probably interact with the gut microbiota. Sadly, this is not a well-researched area. And I know when I started doing some of this as part of my PhD work back in 2002, 2003, there was really nothing being done looking at herbs and beneficial members of the microbiota. There was certainly research looking at what pathogens herbs killed. Yeah, there's a fair bit of stuff around that, but there was just not really much about what impact did these herbs actually have on the microbiota composition, what impact do they have on beneficial bacteria. And sadly, moving forward, it's still not a well-researched area. The 2019 paper kind of looked at this and go, how much research have we done on these sort of, let's choose 44 Western herb medicines commonly used in Europe with a GI focus, and that have European, plant monographs on them. How many of them have any research showing what they do in the gut or how they interact with gut flora? And to me, this brings up a bunch of questions around the different herbal preparations that we use could use in practice in constituent complexity, and that we can just give herbs as just a ground up herb, or people could chew up, chunks of Codonopsis root, for example. We can do it as an infusion, and we can do it as a decoction. And we know that for a lot of herbs that we're often using for roots, like Codonopsis or Panax ginseng, or we're using root barks, for example, we're often decocting it. And by decocting it, we actually extract out quite a few of those polysaccharides. Now, we probably get some of the polysaccharides with infusion, but we don't typically probably wouldn't infuse, Panax ginseng or infuse Codonopsis. We generally would want to decoct it because we've kind of known for a long time that we don't get all out of it. All we want out of those herbs for just infusing it. We actually have to decoct it to get it everything we want out of it. The more butyrate is present, the lower the level of methanogens. And butyrate probably inhibits the growth of methanogens. So that kind of suggests that if we can nurture our butyrate producing species, we can suppress the growth of methanogens in the gut. It might even mean there's a role for supplementing with butyrate in this population as well, particularly if you can't encourage the growth of their butyrate producing species due to severe dietary restrictions. For example, we might go in with butyrate supplements initially. And last slide, because I think we have to be aware that some of our herbs might be causing this negative impact on key members of the gut microbiota. And I've certainly seen this with berberine in my patients, where essentially because we're altering populations of beneficial species who are going down, gut healing species that are going down in proportion, we're actually altering microbiome functioning, and they're less there to eat certain herbal compounds. We might even be altering, how our herbs work. There's the potential for diminishing the efficacy of other herb medicines by targeting bifidobacteria, by targeting bifidobacteria and butyrate producers. We may actually inhibit or limit the functionality of some of our herb medicines.